Discovery and confrontation. The galactic hegemony had ruled for 12,000 years. Their vast empire spanned 3 spiral arms of the Milky Way, encompassing over 7,000 star systems and nearly 500 sentient species. Their technological supremacy was unquestioned, their military might unchallenged. The Hegemon Council, composed of the 12 eldest members of the founding species, the Vecteri, had not faced a serious threat in over 2 millennia. Admiral Zorvac stood on the observation deck of the Imperial dreadnought Eternal Dominion, his 4 eyes fixed on the holographic display of a small blue-green planet. His scaled skin reflected the soft blue light as his secondary arms tapped commands into the ship's neural interface. "Another life-bearing world," said Sub-Commander Nishval, her voice carrying the distinctive metallic resonance of all Vecteri speech. "Unremarkable, save for their unusual rate of technological advancement." Zorvac's throat membrane pulsed in agreement. Indeed, from primitive combustion engines to rudimentary spaceflight in less than 2 centuries. Curious. The hegemony's standard procedure for discovering new sentient species was well established. Observe, assess potential threat level, and integrate or subjugate accordingly. Species that accepted hegemony rule were granted protectorate status. Those that resisted were made examples of. "What do we know of these humans?" Zorvac asked, pronouncing the unfamiliar word carefully. "They are carbon-based bipedal mammals, average lifespan of approximately 100 solar cycles. They've established a primitive presence on their moon and neighboring planet, but remain largely confined to their homeworld. They call it Earth. Military capabilities, limited to their planetary atmosphere and near orbit. Nuclear fission weapons, chemical propellants, rudimentary energy shielding. Nothing that poses a threat to imperial vessels." Zorvac's primary eyes narrowed. "And yet they've advanced remarkably quickly. What drives such rapid development?" "Unknown, Admiral. Their communications suggest a highly competitive social structure. They appear to be divided into multiple sovereign territories, constantly competing for resources and technological advantages." "Fascinating. Most species unify before achieving spaceflight." The Admiral made his decision. "Prepare a first contact delegation. I will inform the Hegemon Council that we have discovered a potential new protectorate." 3 solar days later, humanity received its first official contact from an extraterrestrial civilization. The hegemony ships appeared simultaneously over every major city on Earth, massive vessels that dwarfed the largest human structures. Panic ensued initially, but gave way to cautious diplomacy when the aliens made no aggressive moves. The Vecteri delegation met with the United Earth Council, a hastily assembled group of world leaders and scientists. Admiral Zorvac addressed them directly. "People of Earth," he began, his words translated by hegemony technology, "I represent the galactic hegemony, the governing authority of civilized space. We have observed your development and deemed you worthy of notice. You are hereby offered the opportunity to join our empire as a Class 3 protectorate species." The human representatives exchanged glances. "And what exactly does that entail?" asked Dr. Elena Vasquez, Secretary General of the United Nations. "You will receive technological assistance, access to interstellar trade networks, and protection from hostile forces. In exchange, you will acknowledge hegemony authority, provide resources as determined by quota, and adapt your social structures to align with imperial standards." President Marcus Chen of the Pacific Alliance leaned forward. "And if we decline this generous offer?" Zorvac's throat membrane fluttered in what might have been amusement. "That would be unwise. Species that reject hegemony protection must be neutralized to maintain galactic stability. We would be forced to reduce your military capacity to pre-industrial levels." The room fell silent. "We'll need time to consider," Dr. Vasquez said finally. "You have 3 solar days," Zorvac replied. "This is non-negotiable." As the alien delegation departed, The human representatives gathered in a secure underground facility beneath the Antarctic Research Station, one of the few locations they believed safe from alien surveillance. "They're not giving us a choice," Chen said grimly. "Submit or be bombed back to the Stone Age." General Ibrahim Okafor, commander of the United Earth Defense Force, cleared his throat. "Perhaps it's time to reveal Project Prometheus." All eyes turned to him. "The security classification is beyond top secret," Alina Vasquez said. "Most people in this room aren't aware of its existence." "They need to be now," Okafor replied. "It may be our only chance." Project Prometheus had begun 20 years earlier, when an automated deep space probe detected the energy signature of an alien vessel at the edge of the solar system. Earth's governments, realizing they weren't alone in the universe, had secretly pooled resources to develop defensive capabilities beyond anything publicly acknowledged. The centerpiece of this effort was the UES Prometheus, a supercarrier unlike anything humanity had ever built. Constructed in secret facilities beneath the lunar surface, it incorporated revolutionary technologies: gravity manipulation, quantum shielding, and most critically, a propulsion system that could briefly fold spacetime. "You're telling me we have a warship that can stand against these aliens?" President Chen asked incredulously. "Not just one," General Okafor replied. "The Prometheus is the flagship of a small fleet, 3 heavy cruisers and 12 frigates, all equipped with similar technology. We've been testing them in the Kuiper Belt, beyond the reach of conventional detection." Dr. Vasquez looked stunned. How was this kept secret for so long? "Compartmentalization," Okafor explained. "No single government or organization knew the full scope. Each contributed components or research without understanding the complete picture." "Will it be enough?" asked Prime Minister Abasi of the African Union. General Okafor's expression grew solemn. "Against their entire empire? No, but against the current forces in our system. We believe so." The decision was made. Humanity would not submit to alien rule without a fight. On the third day, the hegemony delegation returned for Earth's answer. Admiral Zorvac stood before the United Earth Council, his posture conveying absolute confidence. "Have you reached a decision?" he asked. Dr. Vasquez stood. "We have, Admiral. The people of Earth value their independence. We must respectfully decline your offer." The Admiral's secondary arms twitched in irritation. "You disappoint me, humans. I had hoped your species possessed the wisdom to recognize the futility of resistance." "Perhaps you underestimate us," General Okafor said quietly. Zorvac's throat membrane pulsed with what might have been laughter. "Your confidence is misplaced. My scout fleet alone could reduce your civilization to ashes." "Then why haven't you?" Chen challenged. "We prefer willing subjects to dead ones. But make no mistake, if you force our hand, we will not hesitate." The Admiral turned to leave, but paused at Okafor's next words. "Before you make threats, Admiral, perhaps you should check on your patrol vessels near Jupiter." Zorvac's 4 eyes widened slightly. He tapped his neural interface, then froze as information flooded in. 4 hegemony scout ships, dispatched to monitor the gas giant, had gone silent simultaneously. "Impossible," he whispered. At that moment, alarms blared throughout the Eternal Dominion. Sub-Commander Nishval's voice came through the neural link, tight with urgency. "Admiral, we're detecting multiple unknown vessels approaching from behind the lunar orbit. Energy signatures unlike anything in our database." For the first time in his 3-century career, Admiral Zorvac felt the unfamiliar sensation of surprise. The holographic display before him showed a formation of ships emerging from the dark side of Earth's moon. At their center was a vessel almost as large as his dreadnought, a massive angular craft with glowing blue energy patterns across its hull. "This is General Ibrahim Okafor of the United Earth Defense Force," came a transmission on all frequencies, commanding the UES Prometheus. "You are ordered to withdraw from Earth space immediately." Zorvac's membrane fluttered with rage. "You dare challenge the hegemony? Your primitive weapons cannot harm our vessels. Perhaps you should scan our ships more carefully, Admiral, Okafor replied calmly. As the hegemony sensors analyzed the approaching Earth fleet, Zorvac received increasingly disturbing reports. The human vessels were employing technologies that should have been centuries beyond their capability. Most alarmingly, their propulsion systems showed signs of space-time manipulation, technology even the hegemony had only partially mastered. How is this possible? Nishval whispered as the data scrolled before them. The Admiral had no answer. For 12,000 years, the hegemony had encountered no species that could challenge their technological supremacy. Yet these humans, confined to a single planet, had somehow developed capabilities that rivaled their own. Admiral, Nishval urged, we should withdraw and report to the Council. This changes everything. Pride warred with pragmatism in Zorvac's mind. To retreat would be humiliating, but to engage without understanding the enemy's capabilities could be disastrous. We will not be intimidated by a primitive species, he decided. Launch fighters. Target their flagship. As the first wave of hegemony attack craft streaked toward the Prometheus, the human supercarrier's response was swift and devastating. Points of light rippled across its hull before erupting into precisely targeted energy beams. Half the hegemony fighters disappeared in flashes of light. Impossible, Zorvac hissed. Their targeting systems shouldn't be that accurate. What the Admiral couldn't know was that the Prometheus employed quantum-entangled targeting arrays, allowing it to lock onto enemy vessels with perfect precision, regardless of countermeasures. The battle escalated quickly. The hegemony scout fleet, composed of 20 vessels, engaged the smaller human force. Under normal circumstances, imperial technology would have ensured a swift victory. But these were not normal circumstances. The Earth ships moved with shocking agility, their space-folding drives allowing them to appear and disappear across the battlefield in a manner that confounded hegemony tactical systems. Their weapons, gravimetric disruptors and focused plasma arrays, bypassed imperial shields designed to repel more conventional attacks. Aboard the Eternal Dominion, Admiral Zorvac watched in growing horror as his fleet's advantage evaporated. 3 imperial cruisers had already been disabled, their systems overloaded by weapons they had no defense against. Admiral, Nishval urged, we must retreat and regroup. Before Zorvac could respond, a massive energy surge registered on their sensors. The human flagship, Prometheus, was channeling power in a way their analysts couldn't comprehend. Evasive action. The Admiral ordered, but it was too late. A concentrated beam of energy, so dense it appeared almost solid, lanced from the Prometheus directly into the Eternal Dominion's command section. The dreadnought's shields flickered and failed, and the beam carved through 3 decks before the human vessel ceased fire. Systems throughout the Imperial flagship faltered. Emergency containment fields activated, preventing catastrophic decompression, but the message was clear. The humans could have destroyed them entirely. This is General Okafor, came the transmission again. That was a demonstration, Admiral. The next shot will not be restrained. Withdraw your forces immediately. With his flagship crippled and half his fleet disabled, Admiral Zorvac faced a choice that no hegemony commander had faced in millennia: surrender or annihilation. This is not over, humans, he transmitted finally. The hegemony spans thousands of worlds. What you face today is merely a fraction of our power. Then bring more ships, Okafor replied simply. We'll be waiting. As the damaged Imperial vessels limped away from Earth orbit, Admiral Zorvac contemplated the report he would deliver to the Hegemon Council. For the first time in 12,000 years, the galactic hegemony had encountered a species that could challenge their dominance. The age of unchallenged imperial rule was over. Humanity had announced its presence to the galaxy in a way that could not be ignored. Turning the tide, Admiral Zorvac stood before the Hegemon Council, his posture rigid with shame. The 12 ancient Vectheri regarded him with expressions ranging from disbelief to contempt. The Grand Hegemon, Zalvor leaned forward on his crystalline throne, his scales dimmed with age to a deep indigo. "You expect us to believe," Zalvor said slowly, "that a species confined to a single planet repelled an imperial fleet. The evidence is irrefutable, Grand Hedgeman," Zorvak replied, gesturing to the holographic display showing the battle recordings. "The humans possess technology far beyond what their development trajectory suggested." Counselor Tevrol, ancient even by Vectheri standards, rasped, "How is this possible? Our historical models are precise. No species advances from combustion to space-time manipulation in less than 1,000 years. "I cannot explain it," Zorvak admitted, "but we have confirmed they possess a small fleet of vessels with capabilities rivaling our own. Most concerning is their supercarrier, a vessel they call Prometheus." The council chambers fell silent as the recording showed the human flagship in action. Its ability to briefly fold space-time, appearing and disappearing across the battlefield, was particularly disturbing. Even more alarming was its main weapon, a concentrated energy beam that had pierced the Eternal Dominion's supposedly impenetrable shields. "This changes our assessment," Zalvor said finally. "A species with such capabilities cannot be allowed to exist outside hegemony control. They must be subjugated immediately, before they expand beyond their home system." "I recommend caution, Grand Hedgeman," Zorvak said. "These humans demonstrate remarkable adaptability. Their tactics were unorthodox." "Explain," demanded Counselor Mevlak. "They do not adhere to established combat doctrine. Their ships operated independently yet cohesively, adapting to our countermeasures with disturbing speed. It was as though they anticipated our responses before we made them." The implications troubled the Council deeply. For millennia, the hegemony had relied on technological superiority and strict adherence to proven battle strategies. The idea of an enemy that could improvise and adapt in real time was unsettling. Nevertheless, Zalvor declared, "This threat must be contained. Admiral, you will return to the human system with the 7th Imperial Fleet. 120 capital ships should be sufficient to overwhelm these innovators." Zorvak bowed deeply. "It shall be done, Grand Hedgeman." Back on Earth, humanity prepared feverishly for the coming storm. The brief victory against the hegemony scout fleet had bought time, but everyone knew the aliens would return in force. In a hardened facility beneath the Pacific Ocean, General Okafor met with the architects of Project Prometheus. Dr. Sophia Chen, chief designer of the Supercarrier's revolutionary propulsion system, displayed the latest simulation results. "We analyzed the data from our engagement with the alien fleet," she explained. "Their shields operate on a frequency-dependent modulation. Once we identify the pattern, we were able to calibrate our weapons to bypass them." "Will that work again?" Okafor asked. "Unlikely," Dr. Chen admitted. "They'll adapt. But that's where our advantage lies. The quantum processors aboard the Prometheus can recalibrate our weapons faster than their systems can adjust their shields." Commander Tariq Hassan, tactical officer of the Prometheus, nodded in agreement. Their battle formations were rigid, almost algorithmic. They fight like a species that hasn't faced a serious threat in thousands of years. "Because they haven't," Dr. Elena Vasquez interjected. "Our linguists have been decoding their communications. The hegemony has dominated the galaxy for 12 millennia. They've forgotten what it's like to face an equal." "We're hardly equal," Okafor pointed out grimly. "Our intelligence suggests they'll return with a force at least 20 times larger than what we faced before." "Numbers aren't everything," Commander Hassan replied. "The Prometheus was designed to fight asymmetrically. Its space-folding drive allows it to engage and disengage at will, striking from unexpected vectors." Dr. Chen pulled up a new holographic display. "We've also been working on something new. During the battle, we detected unusual radiation patterns from their propulsion systems. We believe we can disrupt their faster-than-light capabilities with targeted gravitational pulses, stranding them in normal space," Okafor concluded, seeing the potential. That would negate their numerical advantage. We could engage segments of their fleet individually. The preparations continued around the clock. Earth's manufacturing capabilities were redirected toward producing more ships incorporating the Prometheus technology. Though they couldn't match the hegemony's numbers, they focused on quality over quantity, each vessel a masterpiece of human ingenuity. 3 months after the initial contact, long-range sensors detected the approach of a massive hegemony armada. 120 capital ships, including 3 super dreadnoughts, dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. Admiral Zorvac, once again commanding from the repaired Eternal Dominion, surveyed the human home system with grim determination. This time, there would be no diplomatic overtures, no offers of protectorate status. The humans had proven themselves too dangerous to be integrated into the hegemony. They would be subjugated or eliminated. "Deploy the fleet in standard conquest formation," he ordered. "All vessels advance at half-light speed. Sensors at maximum sensitivity. I want any human ship detected the moment it moves." The Imperial Armada began its inexorable advance toward Earth, an overwhelming force designed to crush any resistance. Yet, as they passed the orbit of Neptune, Zorvac felt a growing sense of unease. There was no sign of the human fleet, not even attempts to hide their energy signatures. Could they have abandoned their system? Sub-Commander Nishval wondered. "Unlikely," Zorvac replied. "Prepare for." The Admiral's orders were cut short as space itself seemed to ripple ahead of the hegemony fleet. Multiple gravitational distortions appeared simultaneously, and through these distortions emerged the human vessels. Not just the small fleet from the previous encounter, but dozens of ships, all bearing the distinctive energy patterns of Prometheus technology. At their center was the Supercarrier itself, now visibly upgraded with additional weapon arrays, and what appeared to be massive gravitational field generators along its hull. "This is General Ibrahim Okafor of the United Earth Defense Force," came the now familiar transmission. "This is your final warning, Admiral. Earth space is sovereign territory. Any further advance will be considered an act of war." Zorvac's membrane fluttered with something between rage and admiration. "You cannot hope to defeat an Imperial Armada, human. We have you outnumbered 6-1. Numbers," Okafor replied calmly, "aren't everything." At that moment, the Prometheus activated its newest weapon. The gravitational field generators pulsed with blinding intensity, sending precisely calibrated waves of distorted space-time throughout the hegemony formation. The effect was immediate and devastating. The Imperial ships' faster-than-light drives destabilized, many shutting down completely to prevent catastrophic overloads. "What have they done?" Nishval cried as warnings flashed across the neural interface. "Gravitational dampening field," one of the Vectheri engineers reported. "It's disrupting our spacefold capabilities. We're limited to conventional propulsion." Zorvac's 4 eyes narrowed. "It changes nothing. We still have overwhelming firepower. All ships, advance and engage." The battle that followed would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for centuries to come. The human fleet, vastly outnumbered but no longer outmatched, employed tactics that defied conventional space warfare doctrine. The smaller Earth vessels operated in tight-knit groups, their space-folding drives allowing them to appear and disappear across the battlefield. They would materialize briefly, deliver devastating attacks against specific targets, then vanish before the hegemony's weapons could lock on. Meanwhile, the Prometheus itself engaged the Imperial super-dreadnoughts directly. The massive human supercarrier demonstrated capabilities far beyond what Zorvac had witnessed in their first encounter. Its space-folding drive had been refined, allowing it to make micro-jumps even in the heat of battle, appearing at different angles around the Imperial flagships. "Their precision is impossible," Zorvac snarled as another salvo from the Prometheus bypassed his dreadnought's shields, targeting exact weak points in the hull. "No targeting system can be that accurate in battle conditions." What the Admiral couldn't know was that the human supercarrier utilized an artificial intelligence battle system linked directly to its quantum processors. The AI could predict hegemony responses based on their previous battle patterns and adjust tactics in microseconds, far faster than even the experienced Vecthera commanders could react. As the battle raged on, the hegemony's numerical advantage began to erode. Without their faster-than-light capabilities, imperial ships couldn't reposition effectively against the human fleet's guerrilla tactics. One by one, hegemony vessels were disabled or destroyed. Aboard the Eternal Dominion, Admiral Zorvac faced a decision he had never imagined possible: defeat at the hands of a supposedly primitive species. "Admiral," Nishval reported, her voice tight with stress, "we've lost 40% of the fleet. Our shield generators are failing and weapons capabilities are down to 30%. Before Zorvac could respond, a new transmission came through, not from the Prometheus, but from dozens of smaller craft suddenly emerging from hyperspace at the edges of the battlefield. "This is Captain Lai Yong of the Mars Defense Coalition," came an unfamiliar human voice. "The reinforcements have arrived, General Okafor." To Zorvac's horror, sensors confirmed that an additional 60 human vessels had joined the battle, ships different from the Earth fleet, but clearly incorporating similar technology. "How?" he whispered. "Their world was unified when we arrived." What the hegemony had failed to understand was humanity's greatest strength. While Earth's governments had presented a unified front to the alien visitors, humans had never truly abandoned their competitive nature. Multiple nations and even corporate entities had been developing their own space defense programs in parallel to Project Prometheus. When the hegemony threat emerged, these separate programs hadn't been abandoned. They had been accelerated and integrated, creating a diverse, multifaceted defense force that approached problems from fundamentally different angles. The combined human fleet now executed a coordinated attack that systematically disabled the remaining hegemony capital ships. The Prometheus itself took position directly above the Eternal Dominion, its main weapon powered to maximum capacity. "Admiral Zorvac," General Okafor transmitted, "your fleet is defeated. Surrender now, or be destroyed." For the first time in 12,000 years of hegemony history, an Imperial admiral faced complete defeat. Zorvac's throat membrane pulsed with emotions no Vectheri military commander had felt in millennia: uncertainty, fear, and a reluctant respect. "This day will be remembered," he transmitted finally. "The hegemony acknowledges your victory. We request terms." In the aftermath, a new reality emerged. The galactic hegemony, faced with the first serious challenge to its authority in thousands of years, was forced to recognize humanity as an independent power. A treaty was negotiated, establishing Earth and its surrounding space as sovereign territory. Admiral Zorvac, surprisingly, became an advocate for peaceful coexistence with humanity. Addressing the Hegemon Council upon his return, he spoke words that shocked the ancient Vectheri leadership. "These humans are unlike any species we have encountered," he declared. "In 3 months, they adapted technologies that took us centuries to perfect. Their strength lies not in uniformity but in diversity, not in perfection but in constant improvement." Counselor Tev Rao leaned forward. "You admire these primitives." "I respect them," Zorvac corrected. "And I fear what they might become if we force them to remain our enemies. In less than a human lifetime, they may surpass even our greatest achievements." Grudgingly, the Hegemon Council accepted the reality of the situation. For the first time, the galactic hegemony would share the stars with an equal, or perhaps, though none would admit it aloud, with a potential superior. On Earth, as celebrations of victory gave way to the sobering work of rebuilding, General Okafor stood on the observation deck of the Prometheus, gazing out at the stars. Dr. Elena Vasquez joined him, her expression thoughtful. "We've changed the course of galactic history," she said quietly. "For better or worse," Okafor agreed. "The hegemony will be watching us closely now. And we'll be exploring beyond our system," Vasquez added. "The treaty grants us access to their star charts, their trade networks. Okafor nodded. Humanity's greatest journey is just beginning. We've proved we can defend ourselves. Now we need to prove we deserve our place among the stars. As the Supercarrier orbited Earth, its revolutionary technology, now the foundation for humanity's expansion into the galaxy, one thing became clear. The species that had been discovered and nearly conquered had emerged as a new power in the cosmic order. The secret supercarrier that had shocked the Galactic Empire had done more than win a battle. It had announced humanity's arrival on the galactic stage. The stars, once forbidding and potentially hostile, now beckoned with promise. Humanity, united by adversity and driven by its endless capacity for innovation, stood ready to meet whatever challenges the universe might present. And the galactic hegemony, for the first time in 12 millennia, found itself looking over its shoulder at the rapidly advancing newcomers from Earth.